So Bruce Almighty was a decent comedy. Seemed like a pretty interesting concept for a film too. A down-on-his-luck news reporter who blames God for all of his shortcomings is visited by the man himself and gives him the opportunity to fill in his position for 1 week. And did I forget to mention this is a Jim Carrey comedy? Going into a film like this back in 2003, you know what to expect from this madman genius. You get your crazy man antics for sure, and with the power of God at his command, he could do no wrong. However, this isn't as crazy as most of the Jim Carrey roles, as those sort of moments are made to be a little bit more eccentric than explosive. Don't go into this expecting an Ace Ventura, The Mask, or even Truman Burbank, as this performance is actually split down the middle. He can definitely be silly, but it's something more of a man who's carefully taming his insanity but pushing it enough to make the audience laugh. And even at times, Jim Carrey showcases his acting prowess in the subtle moments he has with God talking about his and everyone else's places in life. In fact, that's one of the film's greatest strengths. Morgan Freeman as God is one of the best portrayals of the individual, whereas God here feels like an actual character. Someone who has everyday problems just like Bruce, but just given a greater gift that he himself can't always handle. And he feels so relatable in that sense, and that's what makes the chemistry between God and Bruce work so well. I like hearing them talk about faith, powers of God, and humanity, as it feels like there's a real growing friendship between the two. It also brings up the interesting topic of movies where humans talk face to face with God, but that's a video for another day. Jennifer Aniston's in this movie too, playing Bruce's girlfriend Grace, and at times she feels like she's downplayed and she doesn't have a lot of interesting things going on, and I feel like she should be more of Bruce's moral compass, but it all seems like it's coming down to her saying "good job, honey," which doesn't really leave a lasting impact. Also, Steve Carell, in possibly his earliest role in a major motion picture, even as early as being labeled as Stephen Carell before changing it, and also 2 years before he hit a bullseye with The Office, and oddly enough playing somewhat of an antagonist role here, playing Evan Baxter, Bruce's work rival to which he eventually gets his revenge on later, in probably the most memorable and funniest scene in the movie, where Bruce takes possession of Evan and his teleprompter during a live news show. As stated before, the humor is definitely there, and it's more of a relaxed Jim Carrey style, whereas the comedy comes less from his eccentricity and more of how he abuses God's power, with him taking control of Evan and getting revenge on a group of thugs by making a monkey shoot out of one of their asses.
Hey, did that monkey just come out your crack, man?
However, a complaint I have with the film is Bruce's character, as he seems a little too selfish at times. He spends over a week using God's power for his own needs, but spends no more than what seems like 5 minutes working on everyone else's. I know that's in the message of the film to not lose yourself when you're given so much, but he spends most of the film like this, and therefore he's not as sympathetic or someone to really root for. At least not until the last 20 minutes, even if that critique is a bit of a stretch. But overall, I still think this is a good Jim Carrey comedy. Maybe not his all-time best, as some of his more dramatic roles could potentially push this one out of the top 10 list, but still worth checking out if you're a fan of his work. Who would think that a year later his career would be seen in a different lens with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? Probably no one, but still worth a rental, so check it out and see for yourself.